Okay, good morning, colleagues, and welcome to today's meeting for the Committee for the Economy. And start by taking apologies. Kate Nicholl, Jonathan Buckley and Emma Ciaran, who are both on Assembly business, and David Honey for declarations of interest. Members, if any? No. Chairperson's business. The committee met informally with Omagh on the 3rd of June. A summary note of the committee meeting has been circulated. Are members content to note?
Yep. Yes.
Thank you. Departmental legislative programme. Following an Assembly question, the Minister advises that 3 insolvency/director disqualification bills had been drafted but not introduced. The committee may wish to write to the Department seeking clarity on its legislative programme and timings of the bills. Are members content?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Draft minutes, members, at page 7 from last week's meeting. Members content they're a true and accurate reflection? Agreed?
Yes.
Yeah. Page 17, they'll find a copy of the draft minutes of the Joint Economy and Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs Committee on the 28th of May. Are members content that I sign those as accurate? Thank you. And then item 5 is matters arising. Peter.
So just a quick one, members. At the joint concurrent meeting, Miss Ciaran had raised a question about trees. And if you recall, during Storm Eowyn, the trees blew down, took down the red cabling with it. And there were issues with farmers being able to cut down the trees themselves and not finding themselves liable. And DAERA official indicated there's some kind of programme underway here. So the suggestion would be that the committee writes to DAERA and just get them to tell us a bit more about that, so we can provide members with some assurance around this.
Members agreed?
Okay,
Okay,
yes, sure.
thank you. I'll move to item 6, members. Joint evidence session. The committee will now receive evidence from Tourism Northern Ireland, Tourism Ireland and partner organisations, Fermanagh and Omagh District Council and Fermanagh Lakeland's tourism and respective tourism challenges faced here in this part of Northern Ireland, and I refer members to page 35, page 60, page 46 of our packs. Colleagues, you're very welcome, and I can invite you forward. Firstly, can I, Barry, congratulate you on your elevation to the high office. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Delighted to be joined by Ciaran Doherty, Head of Regions of Tourism Northern Ireland, Helen McGorman, Head of Northern Ireland Stakeholder Engagement at Tourism Ireland, Councillor Thomas O'Reilly, who's the Chair of Fermanagh Lakeland Tourism, and Councillor Barry McElduff, who has recently just been appointed as Chair of Fermanagh and Omagh District Council. You're all very welcome, colleagues, and I'm happy to hand over to you at this stage.
I go first, Philip?
Yes,
okay, thanks very much. It's great to see you here at the Erin campus. Good to see you all. Very many familiar faces here. So I'll make an introduction from the council side to be supported by my colleague, Councillor Thomas O'Reilly, in respect of Fermanagh Lakeland tourism observations. So thanks very much for the opportunity to present and for inviting us to your committee session to consider matters pertaining to the local tourism sector. So I'll set the scene briefly. I don't think I'll be rigidly loyal to the script, which we've forwarded in advance. So this council area is the largest of the 11 district councils in terms of physical geography. Predominantly rural area, and we straddle counties Monaghan, Cavan, Leitrim, Sligo and Donegal, covering a distance of 150 kilometres. A core objective of our council's corporate plan is to, be an exemplar regenerative tourism destination, and we have very many offerings. It's an entrepreneurial district with over 8,500 VAT registered businesses. Dominant sectors include agri-food, advanced engineering and manufacturing, construction, financial, professional and business services. Recently experienced job losses from the closure of BT in Enniskillen. So it's an SME-driven business base, you might say. We're always looking for that sub-regional plan. We're always looking for that in respect of the economy, and we're looking for it in respect of tourism. And there are various structures. For example, we have the Visitor Experience Development Plan 2033. Thomas is the chair of that. And other structures that promote tourism. The district encompasses 2 tourism destination brands, Omagh and the Sperrins, and then also, of course, Fermanagh Lakelands. And we look forward to exploring ecotourism opportunities in the Slieve Bay region and that's a cross-district in terms of Mid-Ulster and a cross-border partnership with both Mid-Ulster Council and Monaghan County Council, which has recently been awarded €6 million in shared island funding. And Peace Plus programme Flow for the Love of Our Waters, and GRASP, Green Accelerator Skills Programme, that will impact, support and benefit our destinations and tourism businesses. Now, we're obviously going to say this. This is how we feel. We feel strongly about this. We want a stronger sub-regional approach in the marketing by Tourism NI and Tourism Ireland, Falch Ireland. With some tremendous attractions. For example, Cllr Lakeland's UNESCO Geopark, which has major global status, and Gorton Glen Forest Park, where Dara, one of the giants of the Sperrins, resides. That's a great wee thing to do too, Philip, you know, in your bucket list. You know, don't
Add it to the list.
The Ulster American Folk Park, Dunullu Cultural Heritage Centre, it's the provincial centre of Coltis, Fermanagh National Trust properties, the Marble Arch Caves, Enniskillen Castle Museums, Bleak Pottery, the Boatyard Distillery, Glen Park Estate and Open Farm, and McCracken Visitor Centre. That's in Mid-Tyrone. So we welcome the significant opportunity that has arisen through the Mid-South-West Growth Deal to fund tourism infrastructure at the Marble Arch Caves and across Cllr Lakeland's Geopark. That's a major project. There's also the Sperrins Partnership that includes 4 local authorities, Derry City and Strabane, Mid-Ulster, Causeway Coast and Glens and ourselves, and working with the local Sperrins communities in developing that area of outstanding natural beauty. And there are 434 Tourism NI certified accommodation premises in the district, variously, and the tourism sector comprises 9% of local jobs. I want to hand over to Thomas now.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, members. I currently chair Fermanagh Lakeland Tourism. That's an organisation that's been going over 25 years now. It is a 50-50 partnership between the private industry, the tourism industry, and council members. And we have the role of trying to market all of the wonderful assets that Barry has mentioned there, and trying to work with Tourism Northern Ireland and Tourism Ireland to be able to get that message basically out there to people. Tourism, as Barry has outlined, is a very big enterprise in our area. It is worth over 65.5 million, and that is 2024 figures, somewhat down on 2023, and we are in the business of marketing the best that we can with the resources that we have, and that is always, as you can well imagine, the key component of this is being able to get the amount of resources to market. Marketing is not a cheap proposition in any place, but we have 200 in the FLT organisation. We have 200 members. And that is a considerable amount of tourism infrastructure that we have available to us to be able to attract people into the Fermanagh and Omagh area. As Barry has outlined, we have 2 unique selling points in the Fermanagh Lakelands all around the lakes, and that has been a very well established and is a very well established brand that is known. And then we have the Sperrins, the mountains in Tyrone, and I think one complements the other, and it is about trying to build the brand there to see the Fermanagh Omagh area as a very rural, unspoilt, natural landscape that people will want to come to. And as Barry has mentioned, it's that regionalisation of spend on tourism to be able to see some spend into the rural west as opposed to the North Coast. Absolutely nothing wrong with the North Coast and the amount of facilities that are available, but there comes a saturation point where we need to be able to spread where tourists are able to go and enjoy the natural and the built heritage that we have on offer.
Okay, thanks, Thomas. So I'll carry on. You can indicate, Philip, would I have another 5 minutes?
Speak for as long as you like.
That's good. Good to know. Say it'll be about 12 minutes, just to put you at ease, 12.5. Okay. The value-added tax, the VAT bit, right? So there's the hospitality VAT rate disparity on the island. The Irish government has signalled its intent to lower the VAT rate for food-based hospitality to 9%, and our regional rate currently runs at 20%. So this is particularly challenging for our local businesses who are competing for visitors, tourists from Donegal, Sligo, Leitrim, Cavan and Monaghan, given our geography. And cross-border travel, the ETA, the electronic travel authorisation, makes travel less attractive, say from Dublin, from Shannon and southern ferry ports, to visitors from international destinations. There's no positive in that at all. That's a very negative thing. And it's having a negative impact, or will have a negative impact, on the number of visitors who would like to travel to our council area, to our destination, from the south, you could say. And sub-regional support for tourism development opportunities, we're very friendly, but we have things to say too, Ciaran, it's acknowledged that the hosting of the 153rd Open Golf Championship in July has raised the profile, of the region and of the island as a golfing destination. That's very, very important. But we're obviously asking that the committee seek information on the breakdown of tourism NI, capital and revenue funding by council area. And we seek confirmation that the sub-regional economic plan being developed through the LEP model can support tourism initiatives as part of the projects and interventions that will be funded. And the Fermanagh Fishing Classic, that's one of the biggies. And we believe that cognizance should be given to regional product strengths such as coarse angling on the Erne River system and game angling on the Foyle River system with the Drumragh, Camoan and Struil rivers in our area as well. I think the Fermanagh Fishing Classic benefited our local economy in 2024 by over £300,000 over 1 week, and that involved 180 visiting anglers. Diana, this will be well known to you as well. And with modest investment from the Council and the Department of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs, Inland Fisheries, even that funding was threatened this year, but it was rescued, it was saved, the day was saved. And these people, it's a big, big boost to our local economy when these people come and stay for another week usually to compete in small independent competitions. So we'd place great value in that. I'm going to mention music now. The Bluegrass Festival. I don't know how you feel about that. But you have the Classic Fishing Festival, you have Fermanagh, you have the Ulster American Folk Parks Bluegrass Festival. These are high quality events, and we want greater interest and greater attention and greater support from Tourism NI with respect to sponsorship funding. Back to you, Thomas, on marketing funding.
Yes, thank you very. And as I mentioned earlier, it is key. Marketing is about money and being able to invest that money, and it's about also the ability to have it on a consistent basis. So this short-term funding is, while very welcome, it doesn't allow you to plan in the long term. So the ability to have ideally a 3-4 year programme of funding that allows you to market with a a long-term building approach to it, as opposed to just being able to react to where the market is at any one time. And it's been able to capitalise on emerging trends and to be able to then set yourself up to be able to be in a place to attract a visitor to your area before others, and that's really where it is. So it is severely limiting the fact that we don't have that constant long-term funding. The other one that is part of the new approach is the destination stewardship, and we're delighted to see that. Of course, we want to, as a Fermanagh and Omagh area, we want to make our pitch to be a pilot for that. I think in a rural setting, as opposed to the big urban settings, I think we're well placed to do that. So we would ask that we're certainly in the frame to be considered in that. The other one is the visibility of the regional tourism brands in among all of the other brands that are out there, and I think it's very important that while we have the larger brand for Northern Ireland or Ireland, that we leave space and recognise the regional brands are very, very important to when we attract people to the island of Ireland, that there is a visibility of the other brands to be able to get into the regions and to be able to showcase our world-class attractions like the waterways, the UNESCO Geopark, the first cross-border global geopark in the world. So, there is world-class facilities here. We need the funding to be able to consistently market in a timely manner, and we need to be able to have space for those brands to be seen regionally. All right.
Okay, thank you. Go Succeed support funding. Obviously, that's a council-led programme, but we have been informed that essential funding programme is to or may come to an end in March 2026. Now, funded by the Shared Prosperity Fund, it has been available over the past 18 months to support tourism businesses through start-up, early development, and supporting the sustainability of well-established businesses. But there's an observation we want to share with you as a committee, is that recently we had a delegation went to Letterkenny, and we made a visit to the CoLab there. It's part of the ATU, the Atlantic Technological University Letterkenny, and we learnt of additional support available to businesses, and it would be well worth, any focus on the economy to look at the various programmes that are supporting businesses at the CoLab in Letterkenny. It'd be well worth a visit, in my opinion. I've been saying that to local enterprise centres and rural settings as well. Patsy Donaghy showed us around and told us about the various support programmes that are available, and I just think a model of support programmes like that should be available to us as well. Infrastructure connectivity. Obviously, we know that roads infrastructure is the responsibility of DFA and the relevant scrutiny committee as well there, but it's important to highlight the limited public transport to and from our council area and regional accessibility issues, particularly from the key international gateways. City of Derry, good strong Derry representation here. Knew that would get you going there, Sinead. City of Derry, Belfast City, Belfast International and Dublin airports, and the immediate commencement of the A5 couldn't be overstated in terms of importance, and I think you all appreciate that. And then moving on to broadband and all social media platforms are key tools in the marketing of the two brands, Fermanagh Lakelands and Omagh and the Sperrins, and tourism businesses benefit from support there. So while there has been improved connectivity with Project Stratum, the reach in a timely way must continue in our rural and peripheral towns and villages. And on the question of rising costs, Thomas, would you come in now?
Yes. I'm sure you're all aware that rising costs in every industry is a major obstacle, particularly the increase in employer national insurance contributions, the living wage. All of those are putting a lot of pressure onto the tourism industry, and its thresholds are lowered significantly from 9,100 to 5,000 per annum as of April 2025. A typical hospitality business employing around 40 full-time staff could see an annual labour cost increase of approximately 25,000 due to NIC charges alone, rising to approximately 73,000 with wage increases. So that was Hospitality Ulster as a source there. Energy and operating costs are remaining high, particularly affecting energy-intensive hospitality sector, and combined with rising high insurance premiums and business rates, these costs further reduce the profit margins in the businesses, and as a result, many businesses have had to increase prices, reduce investment and marketing budgets in some cases, limiting even operating hours and affecting the overall tourism product and the economic stability of that. Also, we have staff recruitment, and of course all of the wonderful scenery and the wonderful heritage and everything else is only there because we have great staff to promote it. And any business will tell you that no matter what sort of business it is, staff are the key to that. And it is the same in the tourism industry. If you meet somebody with a friendly face that is giving you a smile and explaining something to you, you're more predisposed to have a good time no matter where you come. And I think that's very much valued in the tourism industry. So it is labour shortages are going to be increasingly a difficult thing for a lot of sectors, but particularly the tourism market. The EU exit impact, the changes on the immigration rules and reduce the workers from the EU, all making a significant impact there. The post-pandemic perception just of the industry is hit hard by COVID-19, leading to instability and uncertainty. And many workers then left the sector after that, and it's hard to recruit them back. You see on the TV just about how the industry has to step up and look after workers better, the late night economy and being able to provide home transport and so forth, just to enthuse people to be involved. And of course wages is another major part of it there. So those are some of the pressures that are very evident that is affecting all of the tourism industry. And then the other one that I want to touch on, Chair, is the tourism statistics and insights. Tourism statistics, as you know, are collected by the Northern Ireland Statistics and Research Agency and produced up to 6 months after the year end. It would be so much better if we could get to some real-time information and an ability to have that as a way to feed information into the tourism sector in a real time, so that people can change, adopt, and go with where the insights are telling them, rather than hearing it 6 months later as to what happened last year. It is also, I suppose, really important that all organisations from Tourism Ireland, Tourism Northern Ireland and all of the other government departments and agencies are working collaboratively to see their decisions through the lens of tourism. I give you an example, Chairman. We talked to the Forest Service many years ago, and they were very adamant that it was about growing trees. We all see now how vital role that the Forest Service play in providing activity, health and well-being and all the rest of it. So there is an awful lot of surround services that impact upon tourism and can impact much greater on tourism. And if we get the statistics in a timely manner, we get this real-time information from agencies and department up front, so that it allows the regional areas to help plan and market, then I think that will be a much better joined up way of delivering on tourism.
Okay, thanks, Thomas. And so concluding now, just on behalf of the members of Fermanagh and Omagh District Council and also Fermanagh Lakeland Tourism, Thomas, I'd like to thank you, Chair Philip, for coming to Enniskillen. It's very appreciated. And also your colleagues, Padraig and Gary and Diana and Sinead, thanks for coming. And the team. I worked closely with Peter in a previous manifestation. He hasn't aged today, I want to say that to you, Peter. But I want to thank you for coming and listening to us, and also want to thank our own officials, Sinead McAvoy, our Director, and Ciaran McCrory, our Head of Service, for working with us in the preparation of this document. So thanks very much.
All right, and Thomas, thank you very much. And it's evident that you're really, really proud of your council area, and rightly so. And you've both been very, very good ambassadors for your area. So thank you very much for your warm welcome. Hand over to our friends at Tourism Ireland and Northern Ireland to maybe give the committee a bit of an overview of the work that you've done to support the region.
First of all, good morning everyone, and thanks very much for the opportunity to come here and discuss tourism development in the Fermanagh and Omagh area. And as Thomas and Barry have said, there's a lot of points there that I would absolutely echo and agree with. I'll just quickly run through a few remarks just on behalf of Tourism NI. So Tourism NI are very supportive of the development of tourism in the Fermanagh and Omagh area. We work closely with the partners in the region, and we will continue to do so. Tourism NI are committed to implementing the Minister's 10-year tourism vision and action plan to maximise the tourism industry's contribution to the Minister's 4 economic priorities: good jobs, a regionally balanced economy, higher productivity and carbon reduction. To ensure that tourism delivers benefits for all, Tourism NI is developing a destination-led approach. The focus will be on making the most of the strengths and potentials of each destination in the north, including the Fermanagh, Lakelands and Omagh. Tourism NI will deliver this through destination stewardship, which is an approach to destination governance that balances and meets the needs of economically, environmentally and socially and culturally, with active participation from the public and private sectors, as well as the local community. This will build upon the Visitor Experience Development Plan for the area, which was part funded by Tourism NI and Waterways Ireland. That's a 10-year roadmap for tourism and aims to reposition the Fermanagh, Lakelands, Omagh and the Sperrins as world-class sustainable and regenerative tourism propositions. Tourism NI will continue to work collaboratively with industry partners in the years ahead to deliver on the ambition set out in the plan. The destination stewardship approach will aim to draw visitors more deeply into the regions, meaning that more communities benefit, contributing to social sustainability and preserving and curating local stories and local experiences. In line with the Minister's economic priorities, Tourism NI have also been working to ensure that prospective employees see tourism and hospitality as a rewarding and attractive industry in which to build a career. Tourism NI have been spearheading this activity through our Make It Here campaign. The campaign involves working in partnership with the North's further education colleges, including the South West College here in Fermanagh, to offer a range of courses designed to meet the changing needs in our industry and enable businesses to recruit and retain the people that they need. Fáilte Ireland has also now made a commitment to Tourism NI to work in collaboration to inform the delivery of an employer excellence programme in the North. Work to co-design the new programme is underway, and we look forward to it being launched later this year. An all-island strategic tourism group has been established, bringing together departments North and South, Tourism NI, Tourism Ireland and Fáilte Ireland to explore cooperative working, including how brand alignment initiatives can be taken forward. From a marketing perspective, discussions are continuing regarding Fermanagh's inclusion within Fáilte Ireland's Hidden Heartlands brand, which we are hopeful will open up new tourism opportunities for the Fermanagh area. On the topic of marketing, Tourism NI recognised last year that the industry here were facing a difficult period in the summer. So working in partnership with Fermanagh Lakeland Tourism and several accommodation and experience providers, we delivered additional support for marketing and promotion targeting visitors from the south. The campaign featured digital, print, PR and influencer marketing partnerships. There was some immediate uplift in both interest in the place and business, including additional leisure bookings at several local hotels. Fermanagh also featured extensively during Tourism NI's most recent autumn and spring campaigns, including a dedicated week which focused exclusively on the region. The Cllr Lakelands Geopark proposals have been identified as a priority investment within the Mid-South-West growth deal, with 5 elements stretching from the Marble Arch Caves up to Castle Caldwell. The potential £21 million package provides an opportunity to build on the work to date in creating a cross-border destination across Fermanagh and Cavan. The Ulster American Folk Park, the Mid-South-West Growth Deal project, also aims to deliver transformational investment in the visitor experience. The £22 million project can enable the Folk Park to act as a real magnet for out-of-state visitors and encourage them to see what the wider area has to offer. Tourism NI recognises the need for further investment in the tourism product in Fermanagh and Omagh to encourage longer stays, particularly outside of the main summer season. There is extensive work going on to develop new and enhance existing visitor experiences in the region across the key themes of culture and heritage, food and drink, and the outdoors. On food and drink tourism, a new bespoke programme is being delivered to grow the offer for visitors. So we look forward to engaging with Fermanagh and Omagh Council, Fermanagh Lakelands Tourism, all of the stakeholders and industry in the months ahead as we move into the delivery of the 10-year plan for tourism. Thanks for your time, and I look forward to giving more detail on all those points.
Good morning, Chair and honourable members, and thank you for inviting Tourism Ireland to be part of the Committee for the Economy this morning. And yes, I think I would echo a lot of the comments that my esteemed colleagues have made already. So I'll just run over an opening statement from Tourism Ireland. Tourism Ireland, as you will know, is the organisation with responsibility for marketing the island of Ireland overseas, and we were established as one of the 6 areas of cooperation under the Good Friday Agreement. Our principal objective is to increase tourism to the island of Ireland and to support Northern Ireland to realise its tourism potential. Tourism Ireland is active in 13 plus international markets across Great Britain, North America, mainland Europe and Australia. In 2024, Northern Ireland welcomed 2 million overseas visitors. That represents an increase of 3% on 2023 figures, with visitor numbers from Great Britain remaining stable and visitors from other overseas markets growing by 12%. Overseas visitors contributed 633 million to the Northern Ireland economy in 2024. Tourism supports 70,000 jobs in Northern Ireland, and about 6 of 10 of those jobs are directly reliant on overseas tourism. Tourism Ireland focuses on helping Northern Ireland to achieve its tourism potential by inspiring visitors and strengthening strategic partnerships. We inspire visitors with our overseas promotional programme and consumer campaigns in our 13 plus international markets. We supplement those with specific regional and seasonal campaigns, such as the Home Halloween campaign or the Ireland on Rush campaign, which is currently live. We work closely with influential travel, lifestyle and special interest media in our key markets to build profile for Northern Ireland. And in 2024, we generated positive publicity in international media for Fermanagh and Omagh district with a reach of over 109 million. We've outlined some examples of the work that we have done specifically on the Fermanagh area in our prepared paper, but just to give a recap of some of those, in the US, Fermanagh was featured in a travel series by Emmy Award-winning host, director and writer Joseph Rosendo, called Joseph Rosendo Stepping Out, and that will be broadcast on PBS network in America, so going into millions of households across America. In April, Tourism Ireland invited Swedish presenter Lina Skandival to visit Fermanagh and Donegal. She then shared her journey on a segment in one of Sweden's most watched morning news and talk shows. The broadcast delivered 1.4 million opportunities to see, and Lina also shared 66 posts from her trip on social media channels with a reach of almost 150,000. Throughout June 2025, Tourism Ireland is rolling out our new Ireland on Rush campaign in 13 plus overseas markets. This will highlight slow tourism, encouraging visitors to visit widely across the regions of Northern Ireland and Ireland and to slow down and connect with the destination, so very much in line with the VEDP for Fermanagh and Omagh district. The key itinerary for the campaign features travel along the Shannon waterways to Cllr and Enniskillen, and throughout the month we will be prioritising slow tourism messaging on all our platforms and channels. Social media is key to driving inspiration, raising the profile of a destination, and Tourism Ireland regularly highlights Fermanagh Lakelands to its 7+ million followers on social media, sharing compelling content on platforms such as Instagram, Facebook and TikTok. By working with strategic partners, Tourism Ireland supports growth at scale, strengthening partnerships and supporting international travel trade and local tourism industry to do business is key to long-term growth and sustainability of the sector. Throughout the year, Tourism Ireland have worked with industry across Fermanagh and Omagh to build overseas opportunities. For example, Blake Pottery joined Tourism Ireland's sales mission to the United States at the end of April, visiting multiple cities across the US. And both Boatyard Distillery and Cllr attended Tourism Ireland's Flavours of Ireland workshop in London in October, which is leading global inbound tour operators that we enable connection with leading tour inbound operators who bring visitors at scale to the island of Ireland. And we also work regularly with National Museums Ireland Northern Ireland to come out to several of our platforms. Tourism Ireland promotes and stimulates demand for RNC travel routes to Northern Ireland. We do this by supporting cooperative marketing with RNC carriers that serve Northern Ireland. All cooperative marketing activity promoting connectivity to Northern Ireland in 2024 generated a 34 to 1 return on investment. Some of the work that we'll be doing in 2025 includes a campaign with P&O Ferries promoting its Cornagrade to Larne service, and that ran on multiple marketing channels. And we'll also be undertaking cooperative campaigns with EasyJet Holidays and British Airways Holidays later this year to promote tour packages that focus on flights to Northern Ireland. Since 2002, international tourism has seen significant growth in Northern Ireland. Visitor numbers have risen from 1.5 to 2 million, and spend has increased from 250 million to 633 million. And we've also seen significant growth in direct air access to Northern Ireland. So while international tourism growth remains positive, there are key challenges ahead. There's economic uncertainty in many of our source markets, and that will lead to, or could possibly lead to, consumers weighing up their holiday choices. So there is a need for increased competitiveness. 70% of non-GB visitors to Northern Ireland enter via a port in Ireland. The Dublin airport cap limited seat capacity throughout the winter until March, and while the cap is relaxed over the summer, it's not clear what the longer term outlook will be for the airport, which remains a key entry point for Northern Ireland. The longer term impact of the UK's electronic travel authorisation is not yet fully understood. While we have not seen the cliff edge impact that we had may have suspected from visitors, as in visitor numbers have not been hugely impacted to date, we are aware that there remain significant concerns from travel trade partners. Tourism Ireland is passionate about supporting regions across Northern Ireland to realise their tourism potential, but it's essential that destinations have the capacity, visitor offering and vibrant evening economy to welcome international visitors and increase spend opportunities. We look forward to collaborating with Tourism Northern Ireland, Fermanagh and Omagh District Council and local industry as the approach to destination stewardship is developed. So while there are challenges ahead, we still feel that there's significant opportunity. We know that visitors are motivated by scenery, culture and heritage, and we're investing to showcase how this region answers these needs and welcomes overseas visitors. With 58% of all NI tourism revenue now coming from overseas, there's an opportunity to help more overseas visitors discover Fermanagh and Omagh through targeted marketing investments like those mentioned earlier. And we're excited to partner with government partners, local businesses and the council to deliver those opportunities. And lastly, just thank you to the committee this morning, and thank you for bringing us down to the lovely part of the world that is Fermanagh. So, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for that, Helen. I'm going to open up the questions, and normally I would start, but given Diana, you ensured our attendance here today, I'll hand over to you if you're content.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to the panel for being here this morning. And obviously, as a local person and local MLA, I'm extremely proud of this district, and I do see and acknowledge the work that comes from the hospitality sector, all the partners together working to really drive tourism. And I do support the call for more marketing to really pivot this region to where it should be as hopefully the third highest performing district in Northern Ireland. I think it deserves to be there. I just want to maybe focus on one area first with the FLT representatives, with Thomas and Barry, and it's the spend we in this district. You have high occupancy here, but a lower spend, and it's a spend that I think drives the economy, to see that spend coming back into the economy in Fermanagh and Omagh area. And can I ask, how much of an impact does the wedding trade have on that? And what you would need to facilitate tourism growth, but also keep a wedding trade which is buoyant and which the hotels rely on to keep themselves, economically viable on the shoulder seasons as well as the summer seasons?
Yeah, thanks, Diana. Maybe I could sort of have a go at that one. The tourism, the wedding trade is massive, as you have said. It is well established in the Fermanagh and Omagh area, and our hotels particularly rely on the wedding trade. It's been well built up over the years. I suppose weddings are changing. The traditional weddings in hotels are not as popular as they once were, and there is so many different venues and so many different places that you can get married now, so people are opting for those different ways. So hotels particularly are having to then, and the surround services that come with weddings, are having to find different ways of being able to fill those gaps that were once weekend in and out filled. So I suppose it goes back to that point that I was making earlier of consistent funding to allow us to be able to market, particularly, as you said, the off-shoulder season, to be able to encourage more people in. The reality is that so many people believe in the tourism potential. They're willing to put their money, as you well know, into the different venues and to be able to put accommodation, continuously innovative accommodation in place to be able to attract visitors in. So I think it is in that vein that we need to be looking at supporting those sort of business people that are willing to invest their own money into property, into businesses. And that, I think, also comes then with legislation to there was once a presumption in favour of tourism planning to facilitate business, and now it is a question of having to go through and build a business case, identify the need and do all of the rest of it. And while we don't want to see the place littered with unnecessary accommodation and facilities, we want to be able to have a system that responds timely and allows those that wish to invest to build up our tourism infrastructure the opportunity to do so.
Mm-hmm. Whenever you said, Diana, about low spend, that made me think of the Fermanagh Fishing Classic, where that's a good example, where people stay around, for a week to 2 weeks and put it in their diary for next year. Just in relation to hotel provision, and you would know this, the Omagh end probably needs an additional hotel at least. We have got the Silver Birch Hotel and rooms at Rue at Main Street, but we're working closely as a council with the private sector, in our place shaping plan, to look at that. But just to commend also yourself, when you were a councillor, you did highlight a lot the terms and conditions for hospitality workers. You brought through a motion in the council on that specific subject. I'll leave the weddings to Thomas.
Thank you, Barry. But just when you touch on that, the terms and conditions for employees, Ciaran, how do you envisage the provision of well-paid jobs? The training, the hospitality training, this college provides excellent training in hospitality. How do you encourage young people and whoever wants to have a career which would suit their needs, whether full-time, part-time career in hospitality? How do you ensure, even maybe overall, that these are well-paid jobs, that we position hospitality and tourism with well-paid jobs?
I think, Dan, thanks. I think that the landscape is changing, and it's almost a buyer's market now, that people are deciding where to go, particularly younger people, what type of environment they want to work in. So it's really welcome that we have in the action plan, a commitment to deliver a tourism-specific skills programme. So we are working at the moment with DFE Skills branch and also ourselves, and putting together a membership group, establishing a terms of reference. But we should have that up and running by the end of June, but it's really important that we have buy-in from all of the tourism ecosystem, so accommodation providers, attractions, tour guides, transport, that right across the board, and also regional representation. So I think what we need to do, I think that we have already looked at a bit of a market analysis and looked at where are the gaps there, so to go out and work with the colleges and work with the universities to try to develop programmes that will deliver now but also for the future and all of our needs. The Make It Here campaign, I think, is a good way of kind of describing it, that we've been running that for nearly 2 years now, and the perceptions of jobs in tourism and hospitality have always been, you know what, it's a summer job, you know, I'll do it for a while and then I'll head off. I have to work weekends, I have to work late every night. That is absolutely changing, and you can see that with a lot of the good industry that really see the value, you know, of their staff, because staff retention has been such a challenge, you know. So I think that the landscape, like I say, has changed, that we're trying to promote tourism as a career, not just as a job. You can get a job in a hotel, work your way up to GM, that's a fantastic position. There's real opportunities. There's opportunities within Tourism Ireland, Tourism Northern Ireland. You can be involved in marketing. Somebody has to do the books. Somebody has to cook. Somebody makes world-class cocktails. So it's actually trying to paint a picture of it being a really good environment to work in. And the Make It Here campaign, we did research on it at the end of March there, and it's actually moved tourism up to the #1 sector that people want to go and work in, because at the end of the day, it's a feel-good industry. You know, we're selling holidays. We want people to have a good time, and should be trying to do it, you know, with a smile on your face. It's not a hospital or anything else that is much more pressurised. So yeah, we're doing good work, but we are absolutely aware that this is one of the biggest challenges that we face coming down the line, particularly with the City and Growth Deal projects coming along. They're going to be great landmark attractions, like going to be brilliant for Tourism Ireland ourselves to market those, but we're going to need people to work in those as well.
Excellent. And just one final point for Barry and Thomas is on the Destination Stewardship Programme, you're looking at experience clusters. Can you take us through the clustering work that's been done by FLT in the district? Yes,
well, both at an FLT level and a VDP level, I suppose, it is about clearly the advantage of working together, and it is about bringing clusters of business that can support one another to provide a bigger package, and that gives people more choice. And I think it's very important that we continue with the programs that allows that clustering to take place and to incentivise the tourism providers to be able to see the wisdom in delivering a package deal to our tourists.
Excuse me, we can also see, if maybe talk us through the how Barry and the Yellow Taxi has worked with onshore providers, and that's an example of clustering. Maybe the committee might like to hear that.
Yes, Barry Flanagan provides our water taxi service, our boats here, and one of the packages that is being able to be delivered there is that you can come and you can hire his boat, be able to take the tour out to Devonish Island to be able to see Devonish Island, then come back to the castle, Enniskillen Castle there, be able to see the castle, be able to eat in the castle. So you have a combined package there. If you want to come and stay in the Cllr Hotel, for instance, that a lot of our hotels have the unique ability to be right on the water edge. So you can then be able to come use the water taxis to be able to move from one destination to the other in Fermanagh. So that's a very unique selling point of the Fermanagh brand for the Lakelands.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dana, and thank you all for that. Maybe if I could just start. Ciaran, where are we then with the sub-regional destination tourism?
Destination stewardship? Yeah, I need to get my elevator pitch ready for this, because we've been leading on it, and there's a lot of people, you know, are really interested in it. So I'll try my best to maybe explain what we mean by destination stewardship. Look, I guess tourism, if you take it back, the tourism as we see it, as we know it in Northern Ireland, it has only been around for 25 years. 2012 we had the signature projects, Titanic opening time, Walls and Derry were made more accessible, etc. And then we've seen a huge growth. 2017, 1 million visitors at the Causeway, 5,000 people a day going on the Titanic Belfast. You've got all of Giro d'Italia, World Fire and Police Games. Then the Open coming up in 2019. All of this has seen great growth, and we've finally got a brand for Northern Ireland, Embrace a Giant Spirit, out there, be able to get us into the international marketplace as well to compete, with Wild Atlantic Way, etc., the Fulcher brands. So all of that has really driven growth to a place that is pretty unrecognisable to what it was 25 years ago. I guess the pandemic has probably given us an opportunity. We had to try to get recovery, keep the lights on, etc. But now we've got an opportunity here to actually look at how we're going to grow. Our tourism vision aspires to get us to £2 billion worth of tourism spend by 2035. How are we going to grow that? But more importantly, how are we going to grow it sustainably? So destination stewardship is not a new thing. There's really great case studies out there of places like Hawaii, places in Canada like Jasper, Australia, and different places have done it because they've experienced impacts on communities, impacts on the environment, and also, just not building in a sustainable fashion. So that's the concept of stewardship. How we're going to do it, we're working to try to develop something that will look at the destinations. So Northern Ireland is a small place, but we have distinct destinations, and there's a lot of people will agree with that. We have 11 councils. Each council probably sees themselves as a destination, but what we need to do here is look at this through the visitor's lens. Visitors don't see council boundaries. They can see what the different parts of Northern Ireland can offer. There's different, offerings there. So what we're going to do is we're doing some research at the moment. There's been extensive desk research done by a company called EarthCheck that are working to co-create this with us. So they've done lots and lots of destination stewardship plans in a number of those places that I've mentioned. Maybe good, more than happy to share some of those case studies with you guys to give some background as well. So they're in at the moment. We're doing the engagement with all 11 councils at the moment. We're also going to be engaging with the different departments, with DFI, with DERA, with DFC, because this is the main point that I want to get across today. Tourism Northern Ireland can only do so much. We can only influence so much. This really needs to be a collaborative effort to select where the destinations are and then take it and run with the different destinations, because they're all going to have different strengths and weaknesses. There's going to be different opportunities, and in effect a lot of those destinations will cross council boundaries, so we need to have people willing to do things slightly differently. So we will plan then at the end of the summer to select which destination we're going to go forward first of all. So I'm not going to say we could have, I hope we don't have 11 destinations. We could have 3, we could have 4, we could have 5, so we're working through that process. We're just at the engagement part at the moment, just to get our heads around all the stats. What is the visitor numbers in the different destinations? What is the spend like? What's the product offering? How easy is it to access there? What are environmental potential concerns? So we will select a destination and we'll get a group up and running, which will hopefully have cross-departmental representation, council, industry. And I think that the point that I want to also make on this is it's really, really vitally important that we have community, local residents engaged in this as well. When I say there's different destinations in Northern Ireland, it's absolutely true. North Coast getting lots and lots of visitors, doing good from a spend perspective, but there's pinch points, Cushion Dun, we've seen the dark hedges, from an environmental perspective, and that's what I really want Tourism Northern Ireland to be working forward to make sure that we don't make any of those mistakes. We also learn from the mistakes of other destinations that are much more mature than Tourism Northern Ireland. That's a long elevator we've just gone up, right? So I hope that sort of paints a picture of where we're going with regards to destination stewardship.
Okay, so end of summer, destinations are selected, groups created. Does it have a budget in the Tourism Northern Ireland budget this year? So
we will be making our we don't have a budget this year for it. We've got the budget to actually get everything up and running, but with regards like putting capital in or putting additional marketing into a particular destination. That's not there yet, Chair, but we will be putting bids in the latter part of the year. So hopefully we also can get a 3-year budget,
yes,
as Thomas has made that point, because you got to plan, you got to do these things strategically. It has been a real challenge for us working on 1-year marketing budgets, but also more so working on capital investment schemes, because with a 1-year budget, it is nigh on impossible. You get your budget agreed, you put a programme together, you advertise it, people apply, you award letters of offer, and then you say, get all of that done by the end of March. It's just not viable to develop compelling product from a capital perspective.
Yes, and obviously, we all hope that this is the last year of single year budgets. I'm just conscious, so groups created September, it then does a process of consultation, discussion. This is what the overall vision should look like. What is it then going to develop, like an action plan?
Yeah, I think that we will have principles for Northern Ireland as a whole, how destinations should develop, but then, as I say, there'll be different requirements needed for each one of those destinations. If we had the budget, if we had the resource to do it, you could run destination stewardship plans for all of the destinations.
Yeah.
I think that we need to just walk before we run as well. That's why we're going with a pilot. But if I could get 2 launched next year, that would be the ideal.
Okay, and it's just, I imagine the industry will say this too, that they're more focused on outcome rather than process, and it's creating another level of bureaucracy and group. But hopefully that brings those together. In terms of then the sub-regional economic plans that the Minister had launched, and then the sub-regional local economic partnerships, to tourism in Northern Ireland sit in any of those?
Yeah, so we've written out to all 11 councils and offered our services, so to speak, but make resource available to sit on anything that is relevant with regards to that. So I know that some of my colleagues are sitting on Mid-Ulster's and also Fermanagh and Omagh's councils, but it's slightly different because across all 11 councils, some have a real focus on tourism in there, some not so much. It's not their main focus.
Okay. And at this stage, has Tourism Northern Ireland bid into any of those partnerships for some of the £15 million of funding?
No, not at this point.
Okay. No problem. And then just from your guys' perspective, who are at the coalface, in terms of that relationship between Tourism Ireland, Tourism Northern Ireland and yourself, sometimes there's that competing interest and demand. Is there anything that you think the committee can do to try and encourage that collaboration, that we're all working together?
I think emphasis on sub-regional is very, very important. And Diana made an interesting point there about this region becoming possibly the 3rd highest, council area. That's a good ambition. It's a good ambition. Just before the end, will you give me the opportunity to say something about the musical heritage of Omagh?
No, of course, no problem. Okay. You're going to invite me to the bluegrass? No problem. Okay, I'm going to open up to my colleagues then. Padraig.
Okay, well, look, thanks very much for your presentations, and I think a lot of the points have already been covered. I did Cllr myself a couple of weeks ago in just under 2 hours, so I was expecting a medal at the end, but still waiting. So not too bad. But I suppose seeing that whole area is fantastic, and seeing the potential of Fermanagh is fantastic. But for me, the biggest issues which have faced this region are firstly partition, and secondly the infrastructural challenges that you've mentioned, specifically the A5. So what I would like to know just initially, and it does obviously have such an impact on tourism and on all the other effects and impacts here, what collectively are all the statutory agencies doing to push for the A5 to be delivered? Because we know that that's the key barrier to people getting here and to that access piece. So what collectively are all the statutory agencies doing?
Well, from a council point of view, we've taken a huge interest in this. It's like an iconic project. It's like a programme for government priority. It's something that we all feel very, very strongly about. We've really stretched ourselves in the campaign. I personally would have attended those recent court challenges and court rulings and all of that, and we're just very, very hopeful that sooner rather than later we're going to get that commencement. I know you're very familiar to the campaign yourselves, so I don't think there's anything more important to us, you could say, than A5. The A5 is definitely in our top 3 priorities, It's of such import not just from a road safety point of view, but all that connectivity, all that reduction of travel times, and making this whole region, the A5 and the A4, making this region very, very attractive. So I couldn't emphasise that enough. So from a council point of view, it's an absolute corporate priority for us. And, we've lobbied with... There's an A5N2 group that takes in other council areas as well, across border, Monaghan and Derry, all at the heart of it. So there's a lot of local government emphasis on this, and I just hope that ruling comes sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and while the A5, as Barry has outlined there, is crucial, from so many points of view, also important is the motorway down from Belfast. Yeah. Reaching Ballygawley eventually really needs to come further. We are the only county that has no motorway. We are the county that has the least dual carriageway. So there is many roads there that need to get proper development to allow that connectivity of people to access all of the wonderful facilities that we have down here. And if we don't see that as a priority from central government, then we are missing something badly there. Of course, we have one of the largest cross-border sort of areas here, so there is many roads that lead right through to Dublin. All of the Donegal, all of the major gateways going through Enniskillen. Of course, we're looking forward to the spend on the bypass to allow us to ease congestion there. But that part of that connectivity is being able to get people here quickly. We suffer a little bit on being able to attract the cruise market that is growing, because it's 2 hours plus to get from the ship down, and being able to do. It's possible to do if we had better roads to be able to lead in. And that end of connectivity is very, very important. But I think the other end of connectivity is the broadband, and being able to allow this area to compete on an equal basis with anywhere else by having really good broadband to allow all of the social media platforms to be used to promote, to encourage people, because by and large people are not going into a travel agency, they're going onto their mobiles or their laptops to be able to book their holidays, and we need to provide that real-time information connectivity there.
And then the absence of rail infrastructure. If you were to look at a map of the island of Ireland, the top left-hand corner, it's so stark. It's one of the most impressive maps, a point that can be made by the production of a map. And I know you all identify with that as well.
Yeah, I from Tourism Northern Ireland's perspective, I just make the point, Borg, that without transportation, there's no tourism. Mm-hmm. People need to be able to get around.
Yeah.
And the number one complaint, actually, complaint or feedback, let's just say negative feedback, in all of the visitor information centres all around Northern Ireland would be access. And the difficulty of access, of getting around the place. So it's not just, being able to drive a car, is great, and a lot of visitors will arrive and hire cars and get out and about. Yeah. But I absolutely agree, it's not just the road infrastructure that needs to be improved, it's our rail network as well. Particularly if we're trying to build with stewardship in mind, sustainable travel, less impact in terms of the environment. That is definitely something that needs considered. And I know that it's really welcomed that TransLink are starting to engage with ourselves more heavily. Chris Conway, I think, was in with our board just a couple of weeks ago, asking for feedback in terms of how they can start to shape their plans as well for the future, which is great. So the board were making a couple of points around late night transport to help to support the nighttime economy, and also the likes of the Mourns Rambler service, they help get tourists out and about as well. So yeah, couldn't agree more in terms of investing in our infrastructure.
And we would echo that from the international visitors' perspective. We need to make it as easy as possible for them to get, once they arrive on the island, to be able to visit the regions, to get out and experience different things. And I think the growing focus on sustainability, that's just going to get more and more important as years go on and become a more important consumer choice. So absolutely, public transport is going to be key to long-term tourism development.
Brilliant, thank you for that. And I suppose one of the other things we noticed when we were down was around the UNESCO brand and at Cllr and at Marble Arch Caves and so on. So the sustainability piece is something I'm really keen to kind of delve a bit more into and understand better. In terms of that, and you've really, I think it's been really useful to get a better understanding as committee about the stewardship piece. But what engagement with the likes of UNESCO and other, I suppose, eco organisations and sustainable organisations have you had, both through the tourism perspective and through council and Lakelands as well? What's that kind of ongoing piece like with other agencies?
I don't know, you guys want to take that? So I suppose, look, from what I would say from UNESCO, once you get that badge, you're going to get visitors. We've seen it at the Giant's Causeway, World Heritage Site, and things need to be built sustainably. You need to think about what type of visitors you're going to get. Be frank, that there'll be a lot. People will come from China previously. They want to go straight to the UNESCO site. You're going to have the same probably challenge with Grace Hill up in Antrim as well, Mid and East Antrim. It's looking for UNESCO certification. But again, it's a small village. And once that badge is on, that's where we need to be careful. It's an amazing accolade they have, absolutely. But we do have the benefit of having really close engagement with the Giant's Causeway and understanding how they've had to manage their visitors. So we'll be doing the same on Cllr. It is a great opportunity for it, but I'm just also really wary that we need to plan sustainably. I don't know if you've anything else, haven't you, in previous life at the Trust as well?
The Trust as well. Yeah, I suppose, it is about that responsible growth, and Ciaran's entirely right, particularly in the international market. That badge of UNESCO really creates a difference, and it creates standout in the marketplace. So it's really important, but it does drive visitor numbers, so it is that responsibility and being responsible in terms of that longer term growth. And I suppose in terms of sustainability, that is in the Tourism Vision and Action Plan too. So Tourism Northern Ireland, Tourism Ireland and Falch Ireland are working together on longer term sustainability and what that looks like as well.
And I think from a local perspective then, people are more conscious of where they're going on holidays, about how sustainable their holiday experience is all about. So the UNESCO at a global sort of brand gives you that assurance that there is a big organisation that cares about the environment and is delivering tourism. We have quite an area of Fermanagh covered by the geopark, and it is about working with our neighbouring County Cavan, the Cavan Council there, to be able to put in place the programmes that encourages people with a concern for their environment, a love of the environment, to get out there, enjoy it, but enjoy it in a sustainable way. So I think that's very, very important going forward, that we have that sustainability built in.
Chair, just one last point from myself was just around the Hidden Heartlands, and I was glad to hear it mentioned. Just to get an update on where that's at.
Yeah, it'll be reasonably brief. There are conversations happening between ourselves and Falch Ireland in the shape of what this can potentially look like for Fermanagh. But yes, it is not Tourism Northern Ireland's brand, it's Falch Ireland's brand. So we're actually working through a few of the legal implications of that, if there is going to be licensing availability to industry. So that's effectively where it's at. Things are progressing well. We do have a bit of a plan outlined in place, and I would hope that we'll hear more about it in the coming weeks. Okay.
Is there anything we can be doing, I suppose, as committee to support that?
It's being discussed, so it's really with Falcha and ourselves. Okay. There is progress being made. It's been slightly slow, but always is from a legal perspective, but I think that we're actually getting quite close to the end.
So it's at a very advanced stage now, I suppose.
Absolutely.
That's reassuring to hear. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ciaran?
Thanks, Ciaran. Thanks to you all for your presentations this morning. We could have been doing one of your water taxis getting in this morning, I think, given the torrential rain. But it's a delight to be here, and obviously thanks to Diana for pushing us to come here. And it's always good to get out and about. I suppose, Ciaran, to go to your point and just to follow up on the chair's point around destination stewardship, and maybe I didn't pick you up correctly. How are the destinations selected? So each of there's 4 of us here who are from the west of the province, and obviously we have a particular interest in trying to not only encourage tourism in Belfast, which we need to see, but to get them to go further. How are those destinations selected? And by the end of the summer, did you say, if I picked you up right, that you will have selected them?
Well, we will absolutely have defined what the destinations are by the end of the summer, and that's what I'm saying. We could have 4, so we're working through with these guys that are in. At least they're looking at it through a visitor's lens. They don't have any bias, although they'll probably be biased.
This is Earth Check you're talking about?
Earth Check,
okay.
So they'll probably be biased based on all of their conversations now with the councils as they're going through at the moment. But yeah, in effect, the destinations we will work through. It'll be based on metrics. So where's the spend, what's the product like, etc., and that will actually define what the destination is, what it looks like to a potential visitor. Then once we have the destinations defined, how we will work through that selection process, I will come back to you, because we're not actually at that stage yet.
No, that's okay. It's just we'll keep an eye, because no doubt we'll all be lobbied by our retrospective council areas, and we'll be looking at the matrix as to with bafflement to say, well, how did they come up with that matrix? So no, that's fine.
Given that there's a lot of people want to be the pilot project, there will be evidence behind.
Okay. The other thing, I suppose, is more for Barry and for Thomas. In terms of your submission, you had touched on the funding distribution issue and the fact that you believed there was a need for fair distribution of capital, but also event tourism funding. It's something that I've raised, Ciaran, you know, even in terms of our own context. But I suppose from your perspective, Barry and Thomas, what do you believe needs to change there? Obviously, you want it to be fair, but mindful, obviously, that there's a limited budget. How do you propose that?
I would say a mindset change, Garrett.
Right.
A mindset change that we exist too. I feel very strongly about that. I feel like speaking French now. Nous existons. Je consomme, donc je suis. But we exist too. We're not an afterthought. And as Diana said, we should be in a league table of 11 tourism promoting district council areas. We've got it. But we need central government recognition and respect. We need it from Sport NA, we need it from the Arts Council, and we need it from Tourism NA. Just a mindset change that we exist too is what I would say.
Yeah, and we have a committee set up particularly to look at the amount of funding that comes into our council area. And when you look at some of the big pots of funding that have been out over the last number of years across a wide range of things, Fermanagh and Omagh get a very small percentage of the overall pots of funding that's out there. And we have this, and it's not unique to this area, to this island. It's funding being distributed on per head of population. And until we change some method there and to be able to allow for areas that have small populations, we're always going to be struggling in the West to be able to compete with the likes of Belfast area. So big cities that have the big populations. So there is an ability there to change that from the first point of view, and then to be able to see local government as a good way of distributing. And we have good examples through COVID and all of the rest of how money was delivered out there. The local areas, the local councils that had the contacts, had the trust of people in their local areas built up, were able to get to those most in need as quickly as possible. So there's a tried and tested mechanism there. We just need to be able to recognise it, give it its due recognition, and be able to then deliver equal amounts of money pro rata through.
Thanks for that. And I suppose from a tourism NI perspective then, Ciaran, obviously we hear from Barry in terms of the mindset change, and we don't in any way see that as a reflection on yourself or the good work that is done by tourism NI. I suppose that, will destination stewardship go some way to addressing that, assuming obviously that you're going to be one of those destinations? If you're not, then
there's really only 3 places left.
And I think just to come back to the events point, and I'm sure most of the committee are aware, Tourism Northern Ireland used to have 2 events funds, basically international events and national events, and then due to budgetary cuts, etc., over the last couple of years, we haven't been able to deliver the national events fund, so it's just been international events that we've been supporting, the likes of the Milk Cup, the Super Cup, Derry Halloween, etc., ones that have proven. But what I would say is we need to be looking at those events that have potential for growth, and how do we sort of foster that going forward. So I know that our events team are actively looking at that, and if there is going to be a scheme next year, they want to be able to be in a place where they can actually help to build up events, and maybe give them that push for the first 3 years, and then off you go on your own. So there's a couple of good examples that have stepped up. The likes of Stendhal up in Limavady, is growing. So there's the Ava Musical Festival up in Belfast. Some of the ones that Tourism Northern Ireland or even Tourism Ireland in the past may not have seen, there's international appeal, but things are changing, and I do agree that there is a bit of a gap down in this region in terms of events. But what I would say, Barry, just around angling and fishing, it is. There's definitely an interest there. It could be perceived as quite niche in the international markets, and I know my previous work with Tourism Ireland, I had a lot of people pushing for angling. There was strong interest in the German market, but not that much beyond. But we would be absolutely only too happy to sit down with the team down here and try to shape what an event could look like that would have international appeal, and work with you guys, whether it's market testing, applying a little bit of data, understanding what the actual markets would be. So happy to commit to that.
No, thanks for that. Sorry. No, go ahead.
We would be happy to be part of that conversation too. I think you might be surprised with some of the things that really resonate internationally. So we had both Spanish and Italian journalists over for the Wild Festival this year, and that had great reach, and those articles were picked up hugely. One was syndicated and went out to a much greater number than the original article. So there are opportunities there, and there are things that Fermanagh have in place that could be supported and grown with the right support.
Look forward to that.
No, good. And I suppose that's actually one of the good things actually about having both views together, actually, is that they bring that sort of collaboration. Absolutely. We have a reputation of bringing people together with the committee.
We aim to help.
Absolutely. Just a final question for me, because I know that we have loads of questions. It was just in relation to the marketing piece. Obviously, look, we're mindful, we're not naive to the fact that there's limited budgets and we have to make that stretch. What I see, and certainly from my own family perspective, is that the role of influencers has a huge impact. So Barry, you talk about the Bluegrass Festival, that type of initiative that has been shared widely on social media and encouraging people to come along. I suppose, how are you? I suppose maybe more so for Tourism NI and Tourism Ireland, in terms of keeping up pace with that sort of emerging market. And from what I can see, you can get a good bang for your buck in that type of field. So is that something that you're actively working with local influencers to try and get people to some of these destinations, particularly in staycations?
Yeah, I'll let you go first.
Yes, so it's something I think everybody knows, that at this stage, if you're not active on social media and the internet, that's where 80% of consumers are buying the product. That's where they're seeing the destinations. That's where they're engaging and planning their holidays. So it's absolutely crucial that we're active. On our own social media channels, we have about 7 million followers, and our aim is to grow that to 7.5 this year. And what we will do a lot of the time is engage with local content creators who will share their content with us at no cost to our organisation. They'll share photographs and they'll share videos which we can then promote. At times with our overseas colleagues, we will work with content creators who have a specific following that we really want to engage with and really to reach their audience. And we have quite set parameters as to how that will work, but we are active in that space and we will continue to be so. And it is a really important part. It's one part of our marketing mix. We still, the value of broadcast is extremely important, and working with the likes of, I'm sure the committee is already aware of the success of something like the Fred Stureau programme that we did this year, the Dermot O'Leary's Taste of Ireland. So that broadcast opportunity also remains really important, as does traditional media, but absolutely social media is key.
Yeah, and we would be doing the exact same, working with Irish-based influencers, both north and south, and also then we would set up the familiarisation trips on the ground when Helen and her team send in international influencers, or also, press, TV, etc. So we still see the real benefit of having the budget to do TV, to do radio, to do digital, to do social, to do the out of home, and even the recent campaign that we were able to flex and do last year really paid dividends for Fermanagh. And if we had more budget, we would absolutely be able to do that on a more regular basis, but we just have to cut our cloth accordingly. And we do balance our marketing. We don't even go on a council, we have to go by a county area, and that's how we focus our always on campaigns right across the year as well.
Thank you.
And I think it's a good opportunity to connect with those special interest audiences too, that maybe you don't have the budget to do a huge marketing push when it's special interest, but you can work with influencers or with content creators who are very active in that market.
And from an FLT point of view, that is then to the local version of when Helen gets them in, Ciaran sends them through, then we try to get them distributed out through, and the influencers, both at that international level, local level, and all levels, is very, very important. And then the advent of AI will be very, very important to be able to help with that whole marketing end of things. Budget is the key to that, to be able to continuously do it, because people's attention span, when one influencer does it, it only lasts for a very short time. You need to get the next one ready and out, and continuously keep changing on those platforms. So it's gone from the day where you produce an annual brochure and that does you for the year. This needs to be coming out at a continuous rate, and that takes time, it takes people, and it takes budget. Also, while these people are all very, very important parts of that market, the organic posts are just as important. And being able to get good organic posts out there, it really resonates with people, and some of our big pickups have been organic posts.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're all influencers in our own way, aren't we? We sort of, if you see one family doing it, you want to do it yourself. Apologies, the chair had a nip out, but Sinead, you're up next.
All right, okay, thanks. And thank you. I'm delighted to be here today. And Barry and Thomas, I feel your connectivity pain. I've great empathy for you, and that sub-regional focus that is required in every aspect of our investment in government here has to come in to focus, and it's one of the vision areas of the Minister in the economy, but that's not actually good enough. It has to be right across government because it covers all aspects of it, and that's why I think it needs to be legislated for. Investment in Northern Ireland is not shared. It's not shared with any equity at all, and places like Fermanagh and Omagh are left behind, and along the west, and so it has to change, because if it doesn't change, nothing else will change. Even in relation to health and all aspects of it. But what I want to probably, and you touched on it there when you just said, it's changing times in terms of marketing and that, and probably what I want to bring Ciaran and Helen into. At the very beginning, we talked about data and having the right data at the right time and being able to react quickly, because things do change quite quickly in relation to plans and where you're going to go on holiday or where you're going to spend your money, or in the global context as well. We can see visitor numbers to America, for example, dropping. So those are our visitors that potentially we could attract to come here from other areas. how active are you in getting data as quickly as possible and responding to that data with the kind of small budgets that you have and the short kind of flow-in time that you would have as well?
Yeah, I would say that the access to data is not great. It could absolutely be much better, Sinead. What we do have that is really useful to us is cardholder spend from people that are coming in and spending, and that really helps us to be able to see and balance against the NISR stats are what they are. There's always a delay in them coming. We kind of got used to that in the tourism field, so what we've had to try to move into a place where you're actually talking to the trust in terms of the Giant's Causeway, we're talking to Titanic on a monthly basis just to get a sanity check in terms of what the numbers are like, and so we are still doing that sort of piece when absolutely we could be doing much better with more technical capabilities and abilities, so there's space for that to grow. I think if we could get into a place where we could see real time, then that would be the ideal, because that should inform our marketing as well. You can see if Fermanagh, God forbid, was doing brilliant, then we start off Fermanagh and we move.
We are doing bid. We are doing good. That is where we need to be going to. Now we do have a really strong research and analytics team. How do we get there? Probably more investment and more additional money to support us being able to pull in data.
And you know, because we need to know who's coming and we need to know how much they're spending, but it's no, like, we're only looking at a year past when we're trying to project for the year the year forward, not the present, because we're in the middle of that. So you're looking at, you know, your projections for next year and your spend for next year. But I just want to know, are we really collectively working on that intelligence now, and how could AI help support you get that data as quickly as possible?
So, if you mind if I jump in on that one? One of the things that we're doing, the NISR stats are really crucial, and the CSO data that works with them are really important, and we're really thankful to NISR for pulling that information together for us. But there is that time lag there. So what we're trying to do as an organisation is identify and look at all those other sources of data that are out there and pull them together. And we do have a huge there is a lot of information out there that we can pull together. So we have the Hotels Federation, Northern Ireland Hotel Federation, of very timely, accurate information. They're able to respond quite quickly. Some of the key visitor attractions share their data with us, so we can see which markets our visitors are coming from and respond to that. We have our own marketing data and also our own insights team. So we're actively looking as to how can we pull those different sources together to give us a really informed picture that sits underneath, I suppose, the data that we do receive from NISR. I think AI is going to be really interesting as to how things develop in the longer term and how that's interpreted. And we do have an internal group set up that are looking at AI, both from our website and how that will respond. And I think we will start to look at how that can inform research and information. And again, we also have great sharing of information with Tourism NI as well as our own research, such as our own sentiment tracker that we do on a regular basis, that gives us a good insight as to how the markets are responding to
and just to build on that data and science piece, just when you mentioned AI, absolutely it's going to be the biggest game changer. I hope that tourism isn't particularly affected, because what we have here is an authentic welcome, it's an authentic experience. But in terms of how people are going to be doing their research, how they're going to be being informed in their decisions, is going to change very, very much, particularly across marketing as well. There will be efficiencies, but there will be potentially dangerous territories as well, that you're trying to get a marketing message and someone's just keeping getting hit with the same message time and time again, because once you as you know, if you click on a pair of shoes or whatever, you're constantly served that, you know, and that's what we need to not be able to get into that sort of area. And when you advance it further in terms of autonomous vehicles, what does that mean? Is somebody going to arrive into Dublin Airport straight up the Fermanagh, no driver or anything needed? You know what, that may solve some of our access issues, and that's not too far in the future. But again, where is that authentic welcome? We need to be very careful in terms of how we position ourselves to still be able to deliver in a world of AI.
And as tourism organisations as well, how do you react to kind of global trends like this slow tourism? How do you kind of go out and look at the best in the world and bring back that value to here? I know tourist operators do that as well, individually in organisations, but as a collective, organisations or collaborative organisations, do you do any work in that area to kind of...
Yeah, so we would do that normally through what we would call learning journeys. It is always great to get out and get an understanding. We did, I think it's maybe 2, possibly 3 years ago, that we organised a learning journey to Slovenia to understand the whole concept around slow tourism and their offering, particularly around, sustainability and the green credentials. Really good feedback on that, and some of the private industry that were out there have actually implemented changes on the back of some of their learnings there. We would love to be able to do more of that. We do some, like on a cross-border basis or whatever, maybe go over and visit product that has been developed by Fulcha. But again, it comes down to budgets, and if there was more potential budget that we were able to slice off in order to take key stakeholders out and see best practice in action, that would be fantastic. So at the moment, it's a lot of desk research. It's also working with other partners like Tourism Ireland to be informed of what is actually working overseas.
Okay, and just last week, quick. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to add to what Ciaran was saying. I suppose
if you just ask your final question.
All right, okay.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I was just going to add that I suppose on that responding to trends, it's when we think about the consumer and the visitor, it has to be what is the opportunity matched to what is the asset here, I suppose. So thinking about it in that sense, so slow tourism we know is a huge opportunity for this island. It's we have a lot of rural opportunities. We want to get people out to experience those. So, for example, that's why we have responded to that and having slow tourism as our global campaign throughout the month of June. So Ireland on Rush is our slow tourism campaign. Again, if you take something like the likes of Derry or the Home of Halloween campaign and Derry Halloween, that was a huge opportunity because it's a global festival. It's something that's celebrated all over the world, but very few people are aware of its origins on the island of Ireland. So I suppose it's that balance of recognising what the global trends are and what the asset is that we have on the ground that can match that and where we can build a campaign from.
Okay.
That's great. Sorry about that, Sinead, just for 30 minutes behind schedule, so apologies for that. But Barry, hopefully over lunchtime you will be able to give you the time to give us the details.
I talk about Brian Call and the pretty little girl from Omagh.
Yeah.
All that sort of stuff,
Okay, well,
I could chat with you about that.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Colleagues, can I thank you all very much for coming along this morning and this afternoon. It's been very, very useful, and we look forward to keeping an eye on supporting the work of the Stewardship Fund because it's an important one to do, and we don't want to hear Barry complaining that he's not got his funding, so you've got our support to get that.
That's very good.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Peter. So members, are we content then to write to Tourism NI just seeking the stewardship case studies, information on the timeline, the progress and indeed the process and the evidence base, and do members also want an update on the hidden heartlands?
Yes, please.
Yes, that's great. Lovely, marvellous. Thanks, members.
Anything else any member wants to raise in terms of follow-up action? No? Okay, then we'll move on to the next item, which is item number 7. We'll receive representations from Balcas.
And give us a handout. Yes, they're just coming in.
Yep.
Lovely, thank you.
It's just...
thank you now. Very short.
I think you go on
June 23rd.
Yeah, I think so.
Absolutely. We can take out that.
Yes, we can. Yeah, they're coming in. I think they're all chatting.
Hello, apologies for keeping you waiting.
I just going you want to move yours across there. Is it okay if we swap just for
No, of course.
accessibility issues, let's call it?
That's great. Perfect. How are you all doing? Are you keeping a busy morning?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for coming. We really, really appreciate it. On behalf of the committee, can I welcome Brian Murphy, who's the Chief Executive Officer, Ian McCracken, Business Development Director, Nigel Manley, Group Supply Manager, and Brenda McStravick, who is the HR Manager. You're very, very welcome, and we look forward to obviously visiting with you later today, but keen just to get a bit of a oral overview from you, and I'll hand over to you at this stage if you are content.
Okay, well, look, thank you very much for the opportunity to come here and to talk to you. There's four of us here are going to make a little statement about different parts of our business, from the general management of it myself. Brenda will talk to you about people. Nigel will talk to you about forestry and the need for forestry, and Ian will talk to you about wood pellets, which have been a bad word in Northern Ireland, but actually we try and do a lot of good with them. So if I can begin just with a little summary about Balcas. It was incorporated at Ballycassidy, beside the Ballycassidy River, here in County Fermanagh in 1962, so it's the same age as myself. It's grown to an organisation that directly employs 363 people as of today, and its operations support we estimate about 200 more full-time equivalents throughout Britain and Ireland. We believe that our sawmill on the outskirts of Enniskillen is not alone the largest and most efficient in these islands, in the British Isles, but it's actually amongst the best and the most modern in the world. You'll see it this afternoon. Our factory is unique in that we use the whole tree. The smaller diameter logs from the tree top make agricultural posts, and then working down from the top to bottom, we extract timber to manufacture wooden pallets, fencing for gardens and roads, and timber for construction. The technology employed at Balcas is world leading. And as logs enter our sawmill, again you'll see it this afternoon, a three-dimensional image is captured. Millions of cutting solutions are evaluated in literally milliseconds. And the best value solution is applied then to that individual log. And you'll be fascinated when you see that in practice. As the log journeys throughout our factory, further optimization takes place at every one of the cutting stations to try and get the best and most valuable result. The residues that we have, bark, sawdust and wood chips, are largely processed on site in Enniskillen, so we don't have any secondary transport for them. And we generate our own electricity. It's used first in our manufacturing operations, with the excess out of manufacturing hours exported to the grid. And generating electricity leaves Balcas with a surplus of heat. We don't waste that either. And the heat is used in the company's timber drying kilns for drying more of our residues to manufacture high-quality wood pellets. Balcas operates a second facility at Invergordon in Scotland, and there we generate 9 megawatts of electricity, again capturing the residual heat to dry more wood fibre to make wood pellets. Combined, our two factories generate 12 megawatts of electricity and 180,000 tonnes of wood pellets annually. And the wood pellet output makes Balcas the largest producer by some multiples in these islands. And the heat equivalent is worth understanding. We've displaced more than 4 super tankers of oil to Britain and Ireland. That's 8 million barrels haven't been consumed since we began here, despite being wood pellets perhaps having a bad name in Northern Ireland. Balcas has invested in the last 20 years 125 million in our factories at Enniskillen and Invergordon, and we're now a subsidiary of Glennon Brothers Timber, a company headquartered in County Longford. Along with operating 3 more sawmills, the Glennon Group in County Cork, and at Troon in Scotland and Windy Mains in Scotland, we saw John Swinney, the First Minister of Scotland, recently preside over the official opening of Glennon's timber frame factory at Irvine. This is again highly automated, world-class, world-leading manufacturing facility, and it complements a smaller one in Longford. But combined, the two house building factories are making 4,000 homes, timber frame homes, a year. In total, the sort of group scale, we're generating 14 megawatts of electricity. We make all the wood pellets, Balcas, 180,000 tonnes, and timber output is nearly 800,000 cubic metres. So I'll hand you over to Nigel to talk about trees and forestry and planting.
Hello all. My name's Nigel. I have responsibility for supply of all the trees, as Brian has just said. So I'm going to give you a brief introduction or a sort of background of what I do. And so I'll start. So Balcas operates with a huge respect for the forest supply chain. Its very existence being birthed from the resource, and a lot of our success can be attributed to sustainable forest practices. Operating on two sites, Enniskillen and Invergordon, our annual intake of forest products is in excess of 1 million cubic metres. At Enniskillen, we process 600,000 cube of logs annually, 50% of which are grown in Northern Ireland, the balance sourced from ROI. Working closely with our colleagues in the Northern Ireland Forest Service, we maintain supply aligned with the benefit and the discipline of a long-term contract, operating now in its 25th year. We are acutely mindful of the environment we operate in and engage always with third-party stakeholders. Maintaining supply dictates a daily intake of minimum 85 truckloads entering our site here at Enniskillen. Our forest operations are managed by a team of 6 foresters, all having studied and qualified at degree level, managing a workforce of approximately 35 to 40 people, harvesting trees and forwarding the logs to roadside for collection by our haulage. Forestry machinery is unique to our industry. Today, all machinery employed is purpose-built, technology with sophisticated mechanical capabilities, allowing the machines to traverse the forest floor efficiently, maintaining the safety of the operators and ensuring minimum impact of the machine's footprint on soils, etc. In the cab is state-of-the-art computers operating automatically, felling each tree individually, scanning by length and by diameter before choosing the best length to cut. Before harvesting begins, every site is inspected. Waterways, fauna, historic features, soil types, presence of wildlife or habitats are all listed along with any hazards or constraints. In consideration of same, a documented method statement directing the management of the site is agreed. Our foresters assume responsibility for maintaining all of the above throughout the operations of the site. Haulage is directed also by the forester operating under the controls of the same method statement. Haulage access to the site has consideration for local people and, where appropriate, operating only at times which will not affect community activities. For example, school bus times will be identified. Haulage will not operate during same. Additional agreement with the local councils, authorities such, allows us to agree which types of lorry is best suited to roads. Most lorries are articulated, however, we employ also rigid and trailer, and regularly we use lorries fitted with central tyre inflation. Technology that's designed to spread the load over a greater footprint, therefore easing the load on the roads. We employ local haulage operators and drivers who are familiar with their communities. All of the trees we source are from sustainably managed forests. We operate, trade and are regulated by the Forest Stewardship Council. Having benefited from successful historic planting of trees, we are wanting to ensure the future of our industry. This is a concern for us. In 2020, the then Minister Edwin Poots announced Forests for Our Future. which entailed the planting of 9,000 hectares of new additional forests before 2030. In effect, 900 hectares each year over a period of 10 years. This is not being achieved. Northern Ireland, at the time of the Minister's announcement, had a tree coverage of 8%. Today, it's 8.6%. The ambition is to achieve 11% by 2030. Current strategy is not working. Farmers and landowners are not encouraged to plant. The economics of planting trees falls well short of current existing methods of farming. In addition, and something that will shock government, it is the pending cost of not planting trees. Carbon offsetting is not happening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks. My name's Ian McCracken. I just want to tell you a little bit about our energy business.
Yes.
So, as Brian and Nigel have already mentioned, as part of Balcas processing the whole tree, we utilise sawmill residues to produce our wood pellets, both here in Enniskillen and in Invergordon. We supply this renewable fuel to a variety of customers across these islands. We manufacture our pellets using some of the renewable heat and electricity that we produce in our own combined heat and power plants that run 24/7. And just, to emphasise, no productive forests or harvests, just to make fuel. The wood pellets we manufacture and supply amounts to 180,000 tonnes, as Brian said. This is equivalent to 850 gigawatts of renewable heat energy, which is enough to heat sort of more than 75 homes, just to try and help you visualise the scale.
75,000.
Yeah. Each year we make around 25,000 deliveries to around 6,000 active customers. Our back office for running this renewable energy business is based here in Enniskillen, where we take customer orders, schedule deliveries with a mixture of hauliers in our own fleet. We supply everything from domestic houses to industrial processes, utilising steam and everything in between. 80% of what we supply is to commercial industrial customers, including well-known companies such as Bacardi, Moy Park, Diageo, National Health Service, Sainsbury's, local councils, and even, just in case there's not enough hot air already there, we supply some heat energy for Stormont. One of the larger single sites that we supply is right here in Enniskillen, and that's the local SWA hospital, where we supply around 17 million kilowatt hours of heat every year, which is enough energy for 1,500 homes. We don't have the figures for all the buildings in the local health trust, but Enniskillen SWA must be one of the lowest carbon hospitals of its size in both NI and wider UK. During the recent energy crisis following the start of the Ukraine war, we estimate that we must have saved SWA over £1 million compared to alternative energy costs, never mind the energy security that local manufactured kilowatt hours brought to them. As I've already mentioned, the majority of our renewable energy is supplied to commercial industrial users. Combustion technology has continued to advance, and the latest wood pellet powder burners now allow us to supply heating systems that can cope with peaky loads the same as fossil fuels and scalable up to 50 megawatts. We're currently installing several of these powder burner systems in Scotland and are discussing further installs in the Republic of Ireland with large industrial users. The increase in carbon tax in the south is creating interest from larger users to make the switch to lower carbon alternatives like wood pellets, especially in more rural areas where increasing the size of grid connections is more difficult or costly. This powder burner technology allows us to supply asphalt and aggregate plants, renewable energy that would allow green tarmac to be laid in NI roads just like they do already in Scandinavia, where the government there incentivises contractors to use greener fuels by paying less for bitumen made with fossil fuels. It's well suited to applications in dairy processors, pharma, distilleries and breweries, food production, industrial laundries, district heating. The list is just like fossil fuel. Our wood pellet business has delivered nearly 3 million tonnes of wood pellets since it started in Enniskillen in 2005, helping displace the equivalent, as Brian said, 4 supertankers of imported oil to these islands. And we will continue to utilise our sawmill residues in energy markets where the right market conditions allow us to provide a low-carbon fuel in the commercial industrial niche.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Brenda McStravick, Cllr. At Balcas, we're not just another employer. We are a pillar of economic resilience, a champion of rural opportunity,
and a case study of how strategic investment in people and technology supports communities. We are very proud of our 63-year legacy of providing long-term sustainable employment in a rural area. Today we employ 360 people, with over 250 on the Enniskillen site alone, across diverse roles including IT, engineering, operations, sales, finance, HR, payroll. We offer a spectrum of careers from entry-level to highly specialised technical paths. Our number one priority is the health, safety and well-being of our people. We invest in a comprehensive occupational health service, with additional funding going towards a confidential employee assistance programme, a dedicated employee benefits platform and seasonal gifts. We actively support our employees in their sporting, fundraising and community initiatives, as well as providing continuous support for local charities and community engagement. Much of our recent investment includes automation and safety upgrades aimed at eliminating hazards, improving work conditions and ensuring everyone goes home safe every day. Our approach is proactive, from personal protective equipment protocols to an extensive training programme. Safety is embedded in our culture. Our people are a crucial asset. That's why we're continuously investing in their upskilling, training and formal education. Through our partnership with South West College and our apprenticeship programme, we have recruited and retained local mechanical and electrical talent, supported apprentices into degree-level study at the University of Ulster and Queen's University Belfast, and provide NVQs in team leading and management through the Institute of Learning Management. However, there are skills gaps in areas essential to ensuring the growth and sustainability of this industry, such as forestry-specific learning, advanced technical engineering like PLC systems, and cybersecurity in IT and operational technology systems. The availability, affordability and access to training in these areas is a concern. To remain competitive and to keep rural industry thriving, we ask for investment in training infrastructure, incentives for education providers and greater collaboration between policy, education and industry. At Balcas, we've shown what's possible when you invest in people, embrace innovation and put community at the heart of enterprise. And to maintain this momentum, we need to continue to grow the local skills infrastructure. As we look ahead, our mission remains clear: to continue growing people and careers at Balcas by nurturing talent, championing lifelong learning and fostering innovation in every role. We are building more than just a workforce. We are cultivating a future where local talent thrives, rural communities prosper, and every individual has the opportunity to grow, contribute and lead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brenda.
And if I could just give you a little short summation, I'll not be very long. Our business, Balcas, we believe it represents a success story born of long-term vision, sustainable practice and commitment here to County Fermanagh and our other rural environments. From CO2 in our atmosphere to trees that are the source of our timber, pellets to power, we've created a business that supports jobs, reduces fossil fuel dependence and uplifts our rural economy and community. However, from our perspective, continued success in rural industrial competitiveness relies on overcoming a few key challenges. Afforestation is one of them, skills development, and improving our grid here in Northern Ireland. Addressing these will ensure that we can continue to serve as a national model for sustainable manufacturing and energy production. Thank you very much for your time and attention today, and we'll welcome your feedback, and we look forward to engaging in discussion now and later this afternoon. We're very excited to give you a guided tour of the Enniskillen facility, where you'll see firsthand the innovation and dedication that powers all that we're doing at Balcas. Thanks very much.
Thank you all very much indeed. So, clear from reading the background documents on this and your presentation that this is an internationally leading cutting-edge firm that has developed practices that other parts of the world would probably be envious of. Why have I never heard of you before?
So ask again. I'm sorry. The last.
I'm just asking. You're a great firm. You're doing such a great
Yes.
job. Maybe it's my ignorance, but
No.
I've never heard of you before.
Yep.
What can we do? Like, you're a great news story for Northern Ireland PLC.
Yeah, and it's a very fair point. I guess we've spent time keeping our heads down, not shouting from the parapet, and trying to make the factory work. And when you come down, you'll see that much of the investment has gone into machinery, labour saving, safety. The offices are nothing to shout about, but we've really put it into trying to make the business grow. Timber is a commodity, so it's not a branded product per se. A plank of wood that comes from Balcas is not that different from a plank of wood that comes from any of our competitors. We try to differentiate ourselves with our customers with the carbon savings we make and how we're trying to do things productively and cheaply. It's not surprising that you don't hear of us. You know, we're maybe better at making than we are at shouting about ourselves. And that's the way of the world.
And it's just an amazing story to hear. 63 years of a company that has been set up here in County Fermanagh. You could have gone anywhere, but it's clear that you're committed to your local community. So I'm keen just to pick up on your relationship with Invest Northern Ireland. One of the main concerns that led from the Lions review in the previous mandate was that Invest and I were very good at supporting international firms, but not so good at supporting our local homegrown firms, and you're a perfect example of that. So could you maybe just talk to your relationship and support you've received from Invest Northern Ireland?
Yeah, my background with Balcas only goes back 33 years, so I can't go earlier than that. But the Department of the Economy would have provided great support, and if I could remember the names of the various departments, right back to the 1970s, when the business was being established, in terms of we will have received help, grant aid and assistance in trying to grow the business from a start-up stage. If I go then to I&I and my experience with them, it probably began in 1993 when the Lees Group in Maherafelt went into administration. It was Northern Ireland's first administration. We required some funding to assist with the acquisition of that, and that gave us a certain volume and scale, which has actually been the foundation of growing the business further over the subsequent decades. That was funded that came from I&I by way of redeemable preferred shares. We have paid all that back, and at different times there's been smaller grants. As time went on, I guess through the 2000s and very difficult times in what might be called the banking recession of 2007-8, we pulled back from I&I because first of all we were trading, we were fighting for survival as much as anything else. Trading was difficult, and it was costing us more to get involved with Invest than we were able to get out of it. And the administration that was involved was colossal. That's not a criticism. It's part of government operations. Yet the Public Accounts Committee is something that's feared very often, and the arm doesn't get thrown around you during difficult times as maybe as it would be in better times. In more recent years, I&I has gone through a lot of reform. I am very hopeful for the future and for their retasking of what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And we're very proud to have them and know that they're there in the background to give us support. It's nice to be able to lift the phone to Invest if you need advice on anything from marketing to technology. We don't do it all the time. That's because everybody leads busy lives as well, and you forget. If I&I were going to do something better, it's to make it easier for clients to interact with them and have less time talking and more time doing.
I think that's fair. Thank you very much, Diana.
Thank you very much, Chair, and welcome to the panel today. I have to tell the committee that I have grown up and spent my whole life living very, very close to Balcas and have seen the evolution, and extremely proud of what you do. And I've benefited from a tour, and I've seen the technology being employed, and particularly the development of the pellet powder systems is fantastic and really welcome to see how you're moving forward. But it's really on that issue, Brian, I want to ask, moving forward, have you ambition to develop more capacity, and what are the infrastructure limitations for you on that particular site?
If I could take the back end first and talk about infrastructure limitations, electricity is a huge challenge to all businesses. Northern Ireland is the only part of these islands where the cost of getting additional power is not socialised. That's a reality. We recently have made an attempt, or been working on a project to bring more power into our site. It took a year and a half for us to hear what would happen and how it might be done, and it has a bill of £3 million just to get a wire brought to us. That is actually a holdback to Northern Ireland industry, and I know what's happening in Belfast as well with our aerospace industry. This is something that we need to think about. How can we collectively, as a nation, address? As I talk to my shareholders and we want to put more machinery in, they say, well, you've got to spend £3 million to get the power lines in first. It sets us at somewhat of a disadvantage. Now, that doesn't mean we're giving up, and we're still chasing after it. Now, Diane, I think I've lost part of your question. So,
really, moving forward with the pellet powder systems that you're developing, I mean, can you see future developments, and what do you need to do that to develop new products coming from?
Yeah, so the pioneers of powder systems in the United Kingdom so far have been some of the large Scottish distilleries. And Ian will keep me right, I think there are 3 under construction.
Yeah, 4.
4 under construction, and there's one has actually been working. The opportunities that we see on this island are for the likes of we have a couple of major distilleries. Dairy companies can get their heat without fossil, with about 95% saving on fossil fuels in terms of carbon. The road surface manufacturing industry, which has to heat tarmacadam, I'll call it the old-fashioned word, in the morning to go out in heated lorries. That opportunity is staring us in the face, and Northern Ireland or Northern Ireland companies could win hugely on this island by being able to decarbonise the road surface supplies that they can make. So the equipment comes with a large price obstacle, which is in the order of £4 or £5 million. They're not easy investments for people to make without knowing that they're going to start to win more business and do that. So what we need to have is some exemplars to make that happen and start. And we continue to work with our colleagues throughout all of the different industries that we mentioned earlier there, the dairy industry, the road surface industry, to try and persuade some of them to take a go. And we'll be doing our very best to help that along as well. And we've also spoken at length to I&I about the possibilities.
Very good. And just one final question, Chair, if you permit, is really the reliability of the availability of forests in Northern Ireland for you, depending on the intention of the Forestry Service. How assured is the forestry that you can access in Northern Ireland?
Nigel, would you like to talk about that?
We don't have any concerns at all. Currently, the Northern Ireland Forest Service has an annual FEL of around 400,000 cubic metres. And there's an additional 50,000 cubic metres with which they market on quarterly tenders. So there's an annual FEL of about 450,000 in Northern Ireland alone. Mm-hmm. On the island of Ireland, there's approximately 4 million. Now, that number has climbed significantly, and just now it's just Ciaran, where the private sector on the island of Ireland is about to pass out the government-owned property. So you have the Northern Ireland Forest Service in Northern Ireland, and you have Cllr, semi-state, in ROI. Quilta is just about to go 49% in 51. Now, if we go back to closer to home, the Northern Ireland Forest Service could actually be felling today 650 to 670,000 cubic metres annually. However, if they were to choose that route in terms of marketing, by roughly 2032, they would fall back down again. So there was a decision made within management and Northern Ireland Forest Service, something that we totally agree with, and that was to flatline their annual fell so they can maintain the 450 until, say, 2040, 2042. And that's, up until 7 or 8 years ago, we as a company, Balcas in Enniskillen, we imported logs off the coast of Scotland. Now, there's a plant health issue into the island of Ireland with trees and whatever. However, on the west coast, there's a small zoned off area which doesn't have any pests or diseases. So, now, and we peaked at 160,000 cubic metres of logs into Lissahalli in Londonderry. And we've not done that in the last 6 or 7 years. However, if you take some of the southern Irish sawmills, they're still doing some of that. But they've every intention, as the availability of trees comes to fruition, which we're actually just put our foot through that threshold or doorway. So that in itself, there will be more trees possibly on the island of Ireland than processing capacity. Now, that can very easily be fixed with the processing capacity, but we have no fears whatsoever at all.
Okay.
Routes to market just need to be maintained. That's our, you know what I mean. Most of the trees go across to the UK. The product from the trees.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you.
Could I just add a little and say that we are very keen to encourage Northern Ireland Government to plant more. The societal benefits of our forests are colossal. I mean, I visit them virtually 2 or 3 times a week, certainly every week. Leisure, productivity, and opportunities for our farming community who are ageing, without wanting to insult anyone, need to find ways to sustain their property values, and forestry offers a very good possibility. The need for more trees to absorb carbon out of the atmosphere is very important for us as a nation, because it will help us bring back the potential cost of carbon. Housing is changing, and housing is moving away from the more traditional bricks and mortar to timber frame. People talk about the 3 little pigs and the old story of the house of straw and the house of wood. Well, the house of wood is now 80% of all new homes being built in Scotland. In England, it's as high as 45%. In the Republic of Ireland, it's 25%. I don't have a number for the north of Ireland, but that's the direction that we need to move in and think about our population, which offers us so much for the next 40 or 50 years. We have to find ways of homing them and homing them sustainably. So we want to see government continue to support forestry. It doesn't need to be wall-to-wall coniferous trees. Modern forestry is very much balanced between deciduous and native trees and productive afforestation, which is really commercial forests. But they can mix very well, and they can work very well together.
Okay. Thank you, George.
Patrick?
Thanks, Chair, and thanks for your presentation. I suppose there were 2 elements which I'm keen to get a better understanding of. So research and development is something I'm really keen to understand, how invest work with yourselves and other companies to promote that. And I suppose in that space, can you talk us through the R&D in your company, any support you've had from Invest, either great support or no support in that sphere? And I suppose why I'm asking that is the R&D piece, I would have a worry that it's concentrated only with some firms, and that prevents SMEs and firms like yourselves, who are slightly larger maybe, from growing and from being part of that. So it's to get a sense of how R&D has worked or not for your company.
I'll deal with that again if folks feel free to chip in. We haven't had any interaction on our R&D side with Invest in the last 5 years. We were heading down the road of building a glue lam factory, which is about laminating timber and gluing pieces together to bring additional strength and effectively to replace steel. Then one of our competitors in Scotland bought one of the world's leading firms in Australia. We felt at that stage that it was a mug's game to head down that road here in the west of the north of Ireland, because our Scottish competitors already have all of the knowledge. So we let the project, which was being, we were getting a lot of help from Invest. We're getting a lot of help from both universities here in Northern Ireland. So we've set it aside. We've set it aside for now. Government does provide a lot of support through tax relief for R&D, and we have taken advantage of that over the last number of years. It's in public record. That's not through Invest, but it's very welcome, and continued government support for research and for patent boxes and such things are have to be encouraged.
Okay, thanks for that. And my second point is just obviously you have a site in the north and a linked business in the south. So in terms of All Ireland trade and All Ireland economy, what benefits have you seen in that, and have there been any, I suppose, difficulties that you've experienced through Brexit?
I'll take it from the back first. We managed we put a lot of planning into Brexit and how to deal with it, and have worked our way through it. So for our business, it hasn't been the biggest thing. We would have spent a couple of £100,000 getting ready for it. In the end, it turned out to be fairly easy because of the arrangements we have here in Northern Ireland. We were able to move timber very easily to Great Britain. Our biggest market is Great Britain. We sell a lot in the Republic and have over the years sold much in the Republic. We have a peculiar facility in Northern Ireland for not buying locally, so we don't sell as much. We don't sell as much locally here, and that's just the way of the world. But we've been going back then to the assistance and encouragement that we've had. I have to commend everybody who has tried to help us. All of the business groups, the Northern Ireland Chamber, CBI to a lesser extent because we're not really big enough, were hugely helpful in putting us in front of everybody who was making the decisions. Okay. And we had Theresa May visit our factory. I'd like to get the current Secretary of State to come down and see it. I've been over to see him in his offices in London. There are lots of challenges. The United Kingdom truly needs more trees to be planted and to stop thinking that we can just continue to import.
Brian, just a wee question just on that for my understanding. What specifically was it around the arrangements that helped with the company? Was it through the protocol or what? I'm actually not able to remember all of the different things because we were all over it for a while, and then we managed to make it work. Okay. And once we were able to get ships or trailers, and we export in trailers, and at one stage I think Balcas might have been the largest exporter to Great Britain of trailers off of this island. I'm not sure if we still hold that record, but Cllr and Dublin are important to us if we're going to the southeast of England, where we sell a lot of timber. Yeah. The protocol helped, unquestionably. I think our own preparation and the help we got from Northern Ireland government, from all of the political parties, to be fair, helped as well. Yeah. No, that's encouraging to hear.
No, I'm very pleased with the assistance we got.
Thank you.
Because I was very worried at the time.
Sinead.
Thank you very much for your presentation, and your company looks really impressive as well from this brochure. But obviously you work across departments as well, and your DAERA's biggest customer, and you have a key role in supporting the Department for Economy's energy strategy. How effective do you think that government is working together in relation to your sector And does it ever cause any tensions just working with multiple departments within government? What I'm really trying to ask is, can we work as a committee, can we work more effectively in order to support you so that you're not jumping between departments?
I think we've probably been we've kept our heads down a little bit on a lot of things, but the business has got that much larger now that we need to start working more closely with government departments and get a shared view of what's really important for our citizens over the next 40, 50, 60 years. So the initiative of even trying to get ourselves invited to come and see you and tell you a little bit about our business is us starting in our own rather amateurish way, I guess, to bring forward the name of the business and say that, look, we're an important part of the economy here in the West. We're motivated for good reasons to try and do the right things. And the more government departments, and it's wonderful to see all of you here from different parties and different departments, understanding what we do and getting a look at what we do this afternoon is a great boost for the business, because it means that planks of timber that you'll see in a department store, or pallets that you see being driven around, are all coming from industry that's happening here in Northern Ireland. It's homegrown industry, which has a very, very good future and is a leading technology business on the whole island, actually, in fact, in 2 islands.
And can I bring up the RHI?
Yeah.
And obviously, it hasn't been a good experience.
No.
Within the department as well, and in many ways it probably has made us as a government and its political parties maybe a little bit risk adverse when we're kind of assessing future renewable projects. What has your experience been?
Well, when the RHI scheme came out, we at Balcas ran around like headless chickens for several years trying to satisfy everybody's demands, because the value that you were able to achieve from burning wood pellets was far more than the cost. We found that people with a warehouse along the east coast started to import ships of pellets every month. We were importing 2,000 tonnes from Spain and Portugal every 2 weeks at that time. It was a massive exercise to keep that going, but hugely unprofitable. It was very profitable for the users, and we all know about that. But we were doing the wrong thing. So when the RHI scheme collapsed, we were able to take a step back and wonder, what are we going to do? And actually, it gave us a realization that whatever you do, it has to be something that's fair and good for government and for the public as well, and not provide supernormal value to some people. So the RHI scheme was a disaster, but we have to put it behind us, and wood pellets aren't a bad word within the scale of assistance that they can bring to Northern Ireland's energy sector. Have you anything to add to that, Ian?
In summary, I think it gave a good product a bad name.
Yeah.
The real summary, but we can still do good. We have an established supply chain. That's a 20-year history. People talk about hydrogen and electricity and these things for the future, and they are for the future. But we can provide people carbon savings now. And we just have to go to the hump that RHI give us, because it did give people a concern about moving to renewable energy, even though it has a long-established supply chain.
Yeah.
We maybe need some help
re-establishing. Probably did, yeah. It's the image of the product became, kind of tarnished.
Badly tarnished. I agree.
By the project, if you know what I mean, by the workings of the project as opposed to the product, and it's really unfortunate because, when we're considering renewables now, kind of. You can't nearly mention wood pellets at all. You have to move on quickly because of just the sequelae that has left, and that's not true. And we've got great assets and
Local
that are
manufacture, and, local forests, and it's residues from the sawmills that we're using to make. So it's part of that whole circular economy, if you like, the sawmill.
Yeah.
And we can't supply everyone with that. There's a niche, and we think it's an industrial niche, and you don't have to wait 10 years or whatever when hydrogen is away. You can do it now.
Yeah.
And that allows those businesses to contribute to Northern Ireland's carbon reduction.
Okay, thank you.
And we don't shout enough about the SWA, the local hospital here in Enniskillen, which is one of the cleanest by carbon emissions public buildings in the whole of the United Kingdom and Ireland. And it's terrific. We've been really pleased to have a big user on our doorstep as well, because it's not very expensive for us to transport to it, and we can provide that fuel hugely efficiently. I think Ian mentioned in his few words the cost savings get lost in the NHS in the whole NHS budget, but they've saved an awful lot.
You said 1 million.
Yes. And we estimate about £1 million a year.
Right. Okay.
And that was for 2 or 3 years.
Well, that's really significant.
Which was very significant, but it gets lost in the whole rounding of the budget.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your words. We're really looking forward to our visit later this afternoon, and thank you for what you do for Northern Ireland and for this region in particular.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed, folks, for your time, and we look forward to showing you around this afternoon and trying to put a picture onto some of the things we've explained, because when you hear the words, you don't really see the picture.
Exactly.
Okay.
We'll then move to correspondence, members. With the exception of item 3, are members content? Are members content to agree as outlined in the index?
Yep.
Okay. Item 3 then, members, is just a request that we forward correspondence to Queen's University to inform their session next week. Are members content with that?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Then move to forward work programme. Peter?
No, I'll just go ahead of me. Thanks, members. Just a couple of quick ones. We're QUB next week. I'd hope that the National Franchise Dealers Association would come and talk to us about vehicle emissions. They can't come, so we're hoping to move those to the 2nd of July, which would be our final meeting. Members are content they can't come on next week. Also, the Insolvency Amendment Bill is on the executive agenda, I understand, for tomorrow, but I'm not quite sure when it's going to be introduced. So there's no need to, I'll leave the idea with you, there's no need to make any decisions, but given where it falls, so that the second stage would likely be done before summer recess, my idea would be to write out to stakeholders over summer recess and to do so immediately after introduction, which is very unusual. Don't need to decide right now, members, just to plant that idea with you. It's been done before, and as long as it's an executive, usually it's done with executive bills rather than PMBs, unless, of course, members are concerned about the bill and think they might be voting against it. If that's the case and they wanted to intimate that to me, then I would change my ideas very quickly. But if they're happy enough with the Insolvency Amendment Bill, which I think was technical and straightforward, then we could do that. It means I would just write off a week earlier, because I imagine we might get some complaints from stakeholders saying, oh, you're doing a call for evidence over the summer, but we don't have a whole heap of options, because I suspect members would like to get the committee stage done in September and reported on before all of the other legislation hits us. So just if they can think on that. Also, members, if you're coming to Queen's University next week, if you would text me your car registration details, because they will sort out parking for us at the McClay Library, if you know where that is. And you can walk across. Well, yeah, we're meeting in the student union, so you won't get parked in Elmwood Avenue, as you know. So
know the library too well, unfortunately.
Okay,
reasons.
Are members content?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other business, members? If not, then obviously we will adjourn at this stage and meet formally again next week back in our normal room, and then the committee will